yang berkontribusi bagi pembangunan hijau untuk mengakses pembiayaan GCF. Untuk dapat mengakses pembiayaan ini, perusahaan perlu bekerja sama dengan entitas terakreditasi yang telah ditetapkan dan melakukan konsultasi lebih lanjut dengan Badan Kebijakan Fiskal. Sejauh ini, GCF telah memberikan hibah dan pinjaman untuk 2 proyek dari Indonesia. Proyek fasilitas pendanaan untuk pengurangan risiko eksplorasi panas bumi dan proyek fasilitas pendanaan Climate Investor One untuk energi terbarukan di 11 negara. Selain itu, Indonesia juga mendapatkan 2 proyek persiapan. Persiapan proyek BRT Semarang dan program persiapan NDA dan entitas nasional. Saat ini, GCF mendanai studi persiapan proyek BRT Semarang yang lebih hijau dengan PT SMI selaku entitas terakreditasi.
Harapan kami adalah dengan berdasar studi tersebut, komitmen dari pemerintah Kota Semarang, pemerintah pusat yang kebetulan juga diwakili oleh PT SMI, nanti kami melapor kepada Kementerian Keuangan sebagai NDA, bisa melanjutkan proses ini untuk tahapan berikutnya adalah mengakses dana dari GCF untuk digunakan sebagai investasi membangun sistem transportasi BRT di Kota Semarang itu.
Global Green Growth Institute atau GGGI bersama BKF menjalankan program untuk meningkatkan kesiapan dan kapasitas institusi NDA dan juga seluruh aktor nasional dalam mengakses pendanaan GCF. Dengan meningkatnya kesiapan nasional, diharapkan lebih banyak lagi proyek terkait perubahan iklim yang mendapatkan pendanaan dari GCF.
Ya, fungsi GCF bagi pembangunan Indonesia adalah sebenarnya sebagai suatu alternatif sumber pembiayaan, sumber pendanaan yang bukan saja buat pemerintah. Ini adalah untuk dunia usaha, untuk swasta yang mau membangun, melakukan kegiatan ekonomi yang sesuai dengan prinsip-prinsip pembangunan hijau.
With its vast tropical rainforests, high carbon stock values, and abundant energy and mineral resources, Indonesia plays a key role in tackling climate change issues and limiting the global temperature increase well below 2 degrees Celsius. Under its Nationally Determined Contribution, or NDC, Indonesia has a strong commitment to reduce emissions by 29% through the business-as-usual scenario and 41% with international support by 2030. And to extend this commitment, the country is planning to progress towards a net sink by 2030 and net zero emissions by 2060 or sooner. To achieve these targets, resource mobilization is crucial in supporting climate mitigation and adaptation actions. In its NDC roadmap, Indonesia estimated a financing need of about $322.9 billion for the implementation of mitigation actions, excluding the cost of adaptation actions and creating enabling environments. The government of Indonesia invites public and private entities to work together to achieve global climate ambition through Indonesia's climate actions. The government encourages private investment that can support ambition towards low carbon development and increase resilience from climate change impacts. Therefore, a well-established policies and enabling environment are key to invite private sector participation. The government of Indonesia has taken significant steps in providing favorable policies and regulatory framework for private sectors through various fiscal incentives to enhance low-carbon development. The enactment of Omnibus Law simplifies bureaucracy while still putting forward the environmental aspect through a risk-based business license, an approach that determines permits issuance based on a scale of relevant potential hazards. To nourish the financial institutions ecosystem, the Financial Service Authority has issued regulations on sustainable financing, which encouraged banks to invest in green projects. To date, the national financial institutions have issued $669 million in green bonds and $9.45 billion of loans to green projects and businesses. Lastly, to incentivize stakeholders' contribution to the NDC achievement and limit their carbon emissions, several regulations on carbon pricing instrument have been enacted. The regulation will enable the development of domestic carbon market, which can be participated by all kinds of entities. Indonesia also has proven track record and high credibility among investors. The country has been leading in terms of green bond issuance and has reached $2.7 billion in 2019, accounting of 39% of total ASEAN issuance, making it the largest source of green bond issuance among ASEAN countries. A public-private partnership through SDG Indonesia One platform has also been established to provide blended financing for infrastructure projects that are aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. As of March 2021, the platform has received commitment of $3.25 billion from 33 partners worldwide. The platform possesses various de-risking facilities and has greatly supported green projects by both public and private entities. Even with the growing investments, the country still has gaps in achieving its target in all the NDC sectors, which require the support of various partners and stakeholders. As the fourth largest population in the world, Indonesia's apparent market holds enormous potential for investors. Directing investments towards green projects in countries like Indonesia is a way forward to build the pathway to low carbon and climate resilient economy, while supporting the global's climate target achievement.
Good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, let us pray and praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because of His blessing and mercy, we can come together without any obstacle here, with healthy condition in the Indonesia Business Forum held by Indonesia Ministry of Finance in Indonesia Pavilion, Dubai Expo 2020. The Honorable Chairman of Fiscal Policy Agency, Indonesia Ministry of Finance, Mr. Febrio Kacaribu, Director of Climate Change Finance and Multilateral, Indonesia Ministry of Finance, Mrs. Dian Lestari, Head of Sub-Directorate of Government Support, DG of Budget Financing and Risk Management, Indonesia Ministry of Finance, Mr. Yonatan Setianto Hadi, Head of Sustainable Financing Division, PT Sarana Multi Infrastructure, Mr. Pradana Murti, President Director, PT Geodipa Energy, Mr. Ricky Firmanda Ibrahim, President Director, PT Masdar Clean Energy Indonesia, Mrs. Fatima Al-Suwaidi, and also we would like to welcoming our honorable guest here, the representative of Ministry of Finance, the UAE, representative of Dubai Finance, Dubai UAE, and also from DP World. Also the Finance Attaché Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia in Abu Dhabi, Mr. Bohbi Wahyu Hermawan. Ladies and gentlemen, before we enter the Business Forum program, I'd like to invite you to follow the national anthem of Indonesia Raya. All distinguished guests, we would like to ask, please kindly stand up. ladies and gentlemen, please kindly be seated. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, our program agenda today is Indonesia Business Forum, held by Ministry of Finance of the Republic of Indonesia in Indonesia Pavilion, Dubai Expo 2020, with topics Indonesia Sustainable Projects. Ladies and gentlemen, on this nice occasion, let me deliver the structure of the event today as follows. First, keynote speech from Chairman of Fiscal Policy Agency Indonesia Ministry of Finance, Mr. Febrio Kacaribu. Presentation, International Cooperation on Climate Action and Sustainable Development Financing and its implementation to support National Sustainable Development Agenda, from Mrs. Dian Lestari, the Director of Climate Change, Finance and Multilateral, Indonesia Ministry of Finance. Presentation, Government Support for Developing Sustainable Infrastructure, from Mr. Yonatan Setianto Hadi, Head of Subdirectorate of Government Support, DG of Budget Financing and Risk Management, Ministry of Finance. Presentation, the Indonesian Energy Transition Agenda and the role of PTSMI, from Pradana Murthy, Head of Sustainable Financing Division, PT Sarana Multi Infrastructure. Presentation, Geothermal Energy Development and Opportunities in Indonesia, from Mr. Ricky Firmanda Ibrahim, President Director PT Geo Dipa Energy. Presentation, Masdar Expertise in Sustainable Infrastructure Development in UAE and its accomplishment in building the floating solar power plant in Cirata, West Java, Indonesia, from Mrs. Fatima Al-Suwaidi, President Director PT Masdar Clean Energy Indonesia. And then the question and answer session. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's open this event. Now, we would like to invite Mr. Febrio Kacaribu, Chairman of Fiscal Policy Agency Indonesia Ministry of Finance, to deliver the keynote speech.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished panelists and participants, ladies and gentlemen, I wish a very good afternoon to all of you in Dubai and a very good day to those of you joining us from other part of the world. I hope you are all in good health and spirit amidst the current spread of new COVID-19 variant, which clearly signals the persistence of the current pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, managing the COVID-19 pandemic is still a priority, top priority in most, if not all countries in the world. Despite the economic recovery and growth, which has started to increase along with the steps taken by a lot of governments to end the challenge of the crisis. Nevertheless, our nearly 2 years of experience living with the pandemic has taught us that climate change issues are still pretty much a clear and present danger. Series of climate change-induced natural disasters, such as typhoon, hurricanes, flooding, and drought, continues to ravage countries around the world, which are still struggling to cope with the pandemic. Our environment has provided us with a very strong signal that climate change issues should not be put on a back seat. If it is not handled and managed properly, climate issue can turn into a reversible global disasters, as it's already exacerbated many crises that the world has faced. Based on this perspective, addressing climate change issues is not only important, but has become a critical and crucial part of creating sustainable development in the future. Reducing greenhouse gas emissions and the target to keep the Earth's temperature below 1.5 or 2 degrees Celsius before the pre-industrialization period should become our common and serious concern. As an archipelagic country, Indonesia, with 17,000 islands, where 65% of our population live in coastal areas, Indonesia is vulnerable to climate change. Risks such as water scarcity, damage to land and ocean ecosystems, food scarcity, and declining health quality continue to threaten our population. Furthermore, climate change can increase the risk of hydrometeorological disasters occurrence up to 80% of all of our disasters in Indonesia. In such case, mitigation of climate change is imperative in order to maintain the sustainability of human life and maintain economic resilience in the medium to long term. Net zero emission is seen as an effort to mitigate climate change, which will able to increase per capita income up to 2.5 times higher and provide GDP per year up to 2% higher than business as usual. This will certainly provide good opportunity for our nation to move towards a sustainable national development by prioritizing in a just and affordable transition. The government has committed to tackling climate change through our NDC, Nationally Determined Contribution, which target emission reduction by 29% on our effort and 41% with international support by 2030. The commitment has been also renewed by delivering the updated NDC in 2021, along with the delivery of our long-term strategy for low carbon and climate resilience 2050, which targets the achievement of net zero by 2060 or earlier. In order to fulfill these commitments, the role of the state budget is an important fiscal instrument to drive and encourage the transformation process to sustainable development. The estimated fund needed to achieve our NDC target by referring to 2018 second biennial updated report, this was 3,461 trillion rupiah, which is around 266 trillion rupiah per year. The highest needs come from the energy and transportation sectors, and this figure has not yet taken into account the need for adaptation funding, which is also an important aspect in our effort to deal with climate change. Based on our study, the Climate Change Fiscal Framework at Fiscal Policy Agency, to be able to achieve the NDC target by 2030, there is still a funding gap up to 40%. This is a huge gap in terms of financing, and to address this, there are several fiscal measures that can be taken, namely optimizing budget utilization, mobilizing non-state budget climate change funding, and both domestically and internationally. Over the last 5 years, our state budget has contributed about 23.1% per year of the total financing needs for our climate change mitigation agenda, which translates into an average of 266 trillion rupiah per year. This is according to Indonesian second biennial update report. While the average climate change budget allocation in the state budget reaches only 4.1% every single year. To continue supporting climate change mitigation and adaptation effort in terms of revenue, several policies have been refined, where tax and custom facilities such as tax holidays, tax allowances, VAT facilities, import duties are also used to stimulate efforts to develop new and renewable energy and also clean technology. Fiscal transfer to the region is also used to support climate change adaptation actions in the regions. In addition, our Green Bond or Green Sukuk framework and also the SDGs Government Security Framework were also developed as part of innovative financing for sustainable development. To support efforts in reducing national emissions, the government is currently developing carbon price policy to encourage more parties to involve in tackling climate change in Indonesia. The newly enacted Presidential Regulation number 98, 2021 has been issued as a legal basis for implementing carbon pricing in Indonesia. Among carbon pricing instruments, we are seriously considered by government to be implemented is carbon tax. It is one of the carbon pricing instruments in a form of levy on carbon, which aims to change the behavior of economic actors and to encourage to switch to low carbon and green energy, green economy activities in support of the national greenhouse gas emission reduction targets in the medium and long term. In general, the implementation of carbon pricing will be carried out in stages as a form of affordability by taking into account the implementation progress of the carbon market, achievement of NDC targets, but also looking at the sector readiness and also economic conditions. In support for the sustainable development, Indonesian government has carried out several policy reforms to attract private sectors to invest in sustainable sectors. One of which is through issuance of the Omnibus Law on Job Creation, which reforms several laws and regulations to attract more investment from the private sector, while still paying attention to environmental and social aspects. This policy was followed by the establishment of our sovereign wealth fund called Indonesia Investment Authority, INA, to capture greater investment opportunities, including investment for the sustainable sector. Currently, the Ministry of Finance places sustainability as the main quality element of infrastructure development under its creative and innovative financing framework, which emphasizes the PPP scheme as its backbone. In addition, as a member of G20, we also apply the principles of quality infrastructure investment. On fiscal policy side, the government has also reformed taxation through a package of economic policies and fiscal stimulus. The policy is considered quite effective in improving the investment climate when viewed from Indonesia's ease of doing business indicator on the ease of tax payment ranking, which improved from 148 to 81 in 2020. Our tax reform is expected to improve equity aspects, optimize domestic resource mobilization, and strengthen the business ecosystem in Indonesia. Also, at the same time, incorporate climate change consideration by issuing a number of tax incentives to create a suitable environment for a low carbon economy. Ladies and gentlemen, Ministry of Finance will continue to develop funding innovations for climate change mitigation outside its state budget sources. For example, by developing blended finance programs and pool of funds such as SDG Indonesia 1 and the Indonesia Environmental Fund, or IEF. SDG Indonesia 1, this is managed by PT Salarna Multi Infrastructure, PT SMI, which is an integrated funding cooperation platform which aims to combine public funds and private funds through a blended finance scheme to be channeled into SDGs related infrastructure projects in Indonesia. While the IEF is designed to manage funding sources coming from non-tax revenues, revenue from government services and investments, and development partners. This platform has the potential to support the collaboration of local governments, private sectors, and civil societies in mobilizing climate change financing. In addition to establishing financial platforms, government of Indonesia has also issued innovative instruments such as Sovereign Global Green Sukuk annually from 2018 till today, with a total financing up to $3.5 billion US, and also issued retail green sukuk since 2019 with a total investment of approximately $490 million US. The issuance of green sukuk does not only provide environmental benefits, but also social benefits. In terms of the environmental benefit, during the period of 2018 till 2020, the financing is estimated already reduced 10.3 million tons of CO2 equivalent. In terms of social benefit, the 2020 Global Green Sukuk financing estimated to provide 275.5 meter cubic of clean water supply that benefit more than 2 million households. Recently, the Ministry of Finance also issued SDG bonds back in 2021 in the amount of 500 million euro to support sustainable development in more sectors, in accordance with SDG's government securities framework principles, which include green financing, social financing, and also blue financing. The government also mobilizes international funding, including through the Green Climate Fund, GCF, which is implementing an entity of the UNFCCC financial mechanism established by Conference of Paris, COP, in 2010. Fiscal Policy Agency of Ministry of Finance is the Indonesia's national designated authority for the GCF in Indonesia. So far, there have been 7 projects in Indonesia funded by GCF with a total financing of $287.7 million with a potential emission reduction of 279.2 million tons of CO2. Some of these projects target the development of new and renewable energy, sustainable transportation, forest management through REDD+ framework. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude my speech, I hope that our discussion today can shed more light and further elaborate our government support, access to finance, and investment opportunities available to achieve our sustainable development goals. Clearly, collaboration between stakeholders from both government and private sectors, and also from both domestic and global communities. These are crucial in creating a real and impactful sustainable development projects, and to effectively pave the way for a more promising and greener future for our next generation. Thank you very much for listening. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
The keynote speech was delivered by Mr. Febrio Kacaribu. Thank you very much, Pak Febrio. Ladies and gentlemen, let's open this talk show. This session will be led by Finance Attaché, Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia in Abu Dhabi, Mr. Bobby Wahyu Hermawan. To Mr. Bobby Wahyu Hermawan, we invite. Time and place is yours, Pak.
Thank you, Master of Ceremony, Mrs. Ira Menishini. Distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. I'm Bobby Wahyu Hermawan, Finance Attaché of the Embassy of the Republic Indonesia in Abu Dhabi. I will lead the talk show today with a very interesting topic, Indonesia's Sustainable Project. To Bapak Febrio Kacaribu, Chairman of the Fiscal Policy Agency, Ministry of Finance, thank you for setting up the foundation of this discussion with your noteworthy speech. In today's talk show, we will have 5 prominent speakers as mentioned by Master of Ceremony. First, Ibu Dian Lestari, the Director of Climate Change Finance and Multilateral, Ministry of Finance of Indonesia. Bapak Yonatan Setianto Hadi, Head of Sub-Directorate of Government Support, DG of Budget Financing and Risk Management, Ministry of Finance. Bapak Pradana Murthy, Head of Sustainable Financing Division, PT Sarana Multi Infrastructure. And Bapak Riki Firmanda Ibrahim, President Director of PT Geodipa Energy, and Ibu Fatima Al-Swaidi, President Director PT Masdar Clean Energy Indonesia. After the presentation, there will be a question and answer session that will be answered by speakers. For the online audience who want to ask a question, please visit Slido, sli.do/IndonesiaMov. Please don't forget to add your name and institution or company name. To all participants, the online one and the physically attend in Pavilion Indonesia, thank you for taking your busy time to join with us today on the talk show of Indonesia Sustainable Project. Dear esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, initially we meant to have 3 or 4 speakers to attend the talk show in person here in Dubai. Yet, the increasing case of new COVID-19 variant, the Omicron one, has caused the government of Indonesia to impose strict travel restriction. Thus today we will have 5 speakers joining us online from Jakarta to discuss the sustainable infrastructure development in Indonesia. I hope this new arrangement poses no drawback to the quality of our discussion. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our first two speakers will discuss government's commitment to support transition toward greener and more sustainable economy and the fiscal policy taken to support the agenda. The following three speakers will show us the development of sustainable infrastructure and project in Indonesia. However, before starting the presentation and discussion session, allow me to share some housekeeping rules. Please, for the online audience, to turn off your microphone. You may unmute your microphone when it's a question and answer session. Please also turn on camera so we can talk as we meet in person here in Dubai. You may also drop your question through the slide.do/IndonesiaMov, and then I will read and convey the question later in the question and answer session. Ladies and gentlemen, let me open the talk show. For the first speaker, we would like to invite Ibu Dian Lestari, Director of Climate Change Finance and Multilateral, Indonesia Ministry of Finance, with the topic International Cooperation on Climate Action and Sustainable Development Financing and its implementation to support National Sustainable Development Agenda. Ibu Dian Lestari starts her career as Ministry of Finance official in 1998. She works in various fields, including Head of Investment Portfolio Division at the Center for Government Investment, and also Senior Advisor at the World Bank until 2018. Before serving as the Director, Ibu Dian was Director of Regional and Bilateral in Ministry of Finance Indonesia. In today's talk show, she will talk about how climate change affecting Indonesia economy, discussion on climate action at the global level, and also government policy to tackle climate change, including introduction carbon tax mechanism. I believe this presentation will serve as a solid foundation for our discussion. Ibu Dian, you have the screen for the next 15 minutes. Please, Bu Dian.
Thank you, Pak Bobby. Nice to see you again, Pak, only virtually. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon to you all who's joining us both from Dubai and from Jakarta. So, let me share with you. I'm sorry, anyone operating the slide for me? Okay. So, let me share with you about climate finance policies in supporting sustainable development in Indonesia. Maybe, you know, I'd like also touch about our international cooperation in climate finance as well. I think some of my points already covered by Pak Febrio during his keynote speech, but then let me just give you further details on those points. So please go to the directly to the slide 4. I think I'd like to start by, you know, show you about, you know, the background that the government commitment or policies in climate actions is mostly driven by our own situation, since we are an archipelagic nation with more than 65% of our population living in coastal areas. So we're really vulnerable against climate risk, especially on the rising of the sea level that really expose us to, you know, to the risk of hydrometeorological disaster or natural disaster that comes from the climate change effects. And that can potentially bring us to the, you know, economic loss that can reach up to 3.45% of our GDP in 2030. That's why we are really, you know, having, you know, that such a vulnerability against climate risk, government is really committed to tackle this climate risk by making our planning for climate or particularly for mitigation and adaptation action. But then next, please. Sorry, to the slide 5. I'm already at the slide 5. I just started from the slide 4. So on the slide 5, we are now under the current pandemic situation. We're also exposed to the situation that due to the limitation of economic and social activities, or we can call it due to the social distancing, we can see that emission, in the past maybe 2 years, has dropped significantly. But then, along with the economic recovery signs that, some activities economically or socially getting, back to the new normals, then there's a potential for the emission to back to its path, then, can go to increase again. So this is something that we also would like to avoid. So we have to make our extra efforts, to really, maintain the emission level at the current stage, but then of course without jeopardizing our economic growth. Next slide, please. So Indonesia has been really actively participating in a number of global commitments in tackling climate change, especially ones that initiated by UNCCC. We already signed the Paris Agreement and provided our commitment. We already mentioned about this under the framework of a nationally determined contribution, in which we are going we are going to reduce our emission at 29% if we are using our own resources, or 41% if we are getting international support. And then we dedicate 5 sectors to achieve those emission reduction targets, namely forestry, energy and transportation, waste, agriculture, and industry. And then we just updated this commitment this year by submitting our updated NDC to the UNCCC. We decided to maintain the commitment at 29% and 41%, but then we'd like to focus more on 41%, provided that we are of course getting international support, especially on the financing and other enabling aspects. But then at the same time, along with the updated national determined contribution, we also submitted our net zero emission document, or the so-called long-term strategy on low carbon and climate resilience 2050, which basically the document that put our intention to also achieve net zero emission in 2050 or earlier. But then all of this commitment, next slide please, it's not only it's not easy to achieve, but then also it's require a huge investment or huge financing to, of course, to finance all the mitigation and adaptation actions that we already identified in achieving those NDC target in 2030. So February already mentioned that according to our second biennial update report, we estimated that the needs to achieve our NDC under the 29% scenario, requiring 3,461 trillion rupiah, or equal around 250 billion US dollar. But then we have other documents also indicating the cost needed to achieve our NDC target. there's a roadmap that, estimating around 270 billion US dollar for our mitigation action. But we in Ministry of Finance, we also have our own calculation through while we are preparing our climate change fiscal framework that I will explain about this later. That we find even bigger number if we are talking not only to finance the programs of projects needed to achieve our NDC, but then if we are also calculate all the supporting activities required. So we are talking about under the 29% scenario, we are looking at a number around 365 billion US dollar, and then by assessing the historical trend about the capacity of government funding and then also the private participation in this climate action, we have a gap that need to be fulfilled around 148 billion that still become the gaps if we like again to achieve what we already targeted in our NDC. So this is, and then among the 5 sectors that we already, committed to achieve or to reduce the emission, of course, energy and transportation become, the most, the sector that has the most, or the most expensive, or we call it the abatement cost or the cost needed to reduce the emission as targeted. So almost more than 90% of all the estimated costs that we have to anticipate. So that's why energy transition, as Eric mentioned, become one of our focus when we are talking about effort to mobilize private and also international participation to also complement what the government can provide. But before talking about that particular area, allow me to also talking about the global climate change situation that we also have to respond. So on the next slide, please. Next 2 slides, please. Now we are on this slide. We already identified a number of global trends. Not only the Paris Agreement that I already mentioned that we already committed to. But then the G20 already mainstreaming the sustainable finance of many climate-related issues in its discussion topics, and of course the recent Glasgow COP26 that already that also produced climate pact. Giving another a reference for us to enhance our emission in our climate goals. And also, maybe the carbon border adjustment mechanism that now being or under discussion of the European Union to be imposed to countries that produce goods or services without also putting the carbon pricing or putting the emission calculation into the price. And then, we are also seeing, financial institutions, they are trying to reduce or even stop their financing for any fossil fuel related projects. And we are also seeing how the growing ESG funds that, already keep increasing since 2022. This is, investment that requiring compliance to environment, social, and governance aspect in their decision in putting their money on. So we are next slide, please. So we are really using our role and our leadership in a number of international forums to also trying to navigate or trying to make the global environment is favorable to our efforts domestically in promoting our climate finance policies. That's why our participation in a number of forums showing our action toward that direction. So, for example, in COP26 UNCCC, and in the coalition of finance minister for climate action, in which our Minister of Finance is now becoming the co-chair of the coalition, and also in the forum of G20. As you are aware, in 2022 we are at the presidency of G20, and after the G20 in 2023, we are becoming the chair of ASEAN. We also will use that momentum to also promote the regional efforts in achieving sustainable finance development, and a number of bilateral cooperation, including our cooperation with the US in the framework of Task Force Climate Finance. That to give you a picture description how Indonesia is also using international stage in our efforts to have again enabling environment or conducive environment for our climate finance efforts. Next, please. I think I can skip the next slide. We can go to directly to the slide of our strategy to finance climate agenda. Please skip that slide. Go to the next two slides. So on our strategy to finance climate agenda, this is how we map out the potential that we can develop or mobilize to fulfill.
Besok mau ini kok ya?
Sorry. I think somebody needs to turn off the music.
Apa? Ini mau bawa mesinnya apa ya? Tapi bawa udah masuk.
Pak Ari Erawan, I think you need to mute your mic. Thank you. So we already identified, some potential resources that we can, work on, both from domestic and international side. From domestic, we are trying to identify some fiscal instrument or fiscal tools that we can contribute to the climate finance that we need to, to provide. From the state budget and non-state budget. I can talk about this later in more detail. From international side, we're trying to use our networks bilaterally or multilaterally, again, including GCF. Again, I will talk about this in more detail later. But then this is the strategy that we are working on, and then we plan to keep optimizing in the future to complement, again to ensure the financing availability to achieve our climate goals. The next, please.
Budian, you have 5
next
minutes
slide,
left.
please. So this is the current fiscal instrument or fiscal tools that government already exercise, again to be dedicated to our climate finance. We have a number of tax and excise facilities, especially to aim to stimulate the development of renewable energy and clean technology. And the most recent one, even we are also promoting the energy conversion or energy shift to electricity by providing some tax facilities for electric vehicles. And then for the climate budget taking, this is something that we already started since 2016. That now started in central government level, but now since last year it's been expanded to the local government as well. To know or to track how far the government funding can contribute to all the required or the amount needed to achieve our climate goals or our NDC target. That showing so far it can contribute only maximum only 30% of the total amount already mentioned earlier. So clearly we need other sources from non-budget, especially for non-budget sources, can be from the private or international participation. And we have, a mechanism to get, a participation from the local government by providing them with a number of fiscal transfer to, or fiscal transfer instruments. And on the financing side, we have some instrument. One of them is by issuing government bonds, or the most recent one issuing SDG government security framework. February already mentioned about this, but then I can further explain in the next slide. And then part of the government financing, we also put our government investment in state-owned enterprises and in public service agency. like Indonesia Environment Fund and in SDG Indonesia 1, and also contribution in in a number of international financial institutions such as Green Climate Fund and also MDBs. That one of the benefits that we can get by putting the government investment is our access to their financing or ability to mobilize participation from private and international in our effort or through this vehicle as part of their activities in leveraging the funding. So next, please. I think, Pak
2
Bobby,
minutes.
How many
2 minutes
that
left.
I have?
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Sorry, you're still muted, Pak Bobby.
Yes, Budian, 2 minutes. 2 minutes left for the presentation.
So Pak Bobby, you're still muted? I couldn't hear you.
Yes, I'm still muting.
So
I think
if I still have time, Pak Bobby,
please unmute my mic, please.
Because you're still muted. Sorry?
Yes, I think please committee unmute my mic.
Now I can hear your voice already, Pak Bobby.
Yes. 2 minutes, Budian. Thank you.
Okay. So I can skip the next slide on the climate change fiscal framework. If you are interested about this, we can discuss about it later during the Q&A that I'll be represented by Pak Nur for the Q&A, climate change fiscal framework, because we won't stop only with the policies or measures that I already mentioned. We keep trying to optimize the role of our fiscal tools or our fiscal instruments to mobilize further private and international participation. So climate change fiscal framework is basically the strategy in mobilizing climate finance to of course to ensure the achievability of our climate goals. And then this is the thing that Pak Kebi already mentioned. This is the next slide is our current policies on climate finance by introducing carbon pricing that can cover both carbon trading instruments and non-trading instruments, including carbon tax and resource-based payment, that basically grants provided for entities that can perform emission reduction. And the next, I think, my next slides will cover the detail about the Indonesia, our effort in mobilizing financing for non-state budget resources. That basically I will cover about the green bond and or sukuk framework that we already issued, and then the programs or projects that already under the activities or our Indonesia Environmental Fund and SDG Indonesia 1. For SDG Indonesia 1, I believe Pak Pradana later will give you more detail about this information. And then, of course, our cooperation with Green Climate Fund, in which the Fiscal Policy Agency of the Ministry of Finance become the National Designated Authority. So we are basically facilitating entities that need financing for the GCF, for the project preparation, project development, and even the project operation as well. And then maybe my last slide will be the challenge that we still have to deal with at the slide 23, that, despite all the efforts that government already made for, delivering our climate finance as part of the efforts in achieving our climate goals, we still have to, make, further efforts in strengthening the fiscal reform and fiscal consolidation to ensure fiscal sustainability, because this is part of, ensuring the availability of the optimization of a government fund to be contributed to the climate financing. And then we also need to optimize the mobilization of non-state budget climate resources that I already mentioned earlier. Climate change fiscal framework would serve for that intention. And then aside from ensuring the availability of the funding, we also have to ensure about the feasibility or the bankability of the project, so it can be, getting financing from the financial sector and international support. And since we are aware that while we are, still doing our commitment on climate change, but due to the pandemic situation, that we still have to respond. So ensuring a just and affordable transition is a must. This is something that our Minister of Finance keep calling for international community to support our just and affordable transition. And lastly, we are trying to also address the issue about incentivizing, the shift from the financing instrument from the conventional ones to the green ones, because so far it doesn't really reflect in the pricing of the instrument. So this is part of the agenda that we promote in our G20 presidency, how to enhance the accessibility and affordability of sustainable financial instruments. So all those challenges, hopefully, if we can address it properly, it will contribute to the effort in optimizing, both private and international support to our climate finance to complement the funding that already generated and that's still being maximized or optimized by the government, again, to serve to achieve our climate goals. I think I'll stop here, Pak Bobby. Thank you. And again, I'm sorry if I couldn't join the Q&A, but then Pak Nur, the senior analyst from the Climate Finance and Multilateral Policy Office, will be here to join the Q&A session. Thank you, Pak Bobby. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Budian. I think it's very sharp presentation and quite comprehensive one. And I noted several points from your presentation that the government of Indonesia strongly commit to tackle climate change and has submitted long-term strategy on low carbon and climate resilience 2050. And then also the issue of sustainable and inclusive growth is one of the 3 pillars of Indonesia G20 presidency, with sustainable finance is one of its 6 agenda. And of course, both state and international financing support play important role as a source of financing for climate agenda. And also Indonesia has introduced carbon taxing as a mechanism also to harmonize to combating climate change together with international participants. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker, Bapak Yonathan Setianto Hadi, Head of Subdirectorate of Government Support, DG Budget Financing and Risk Management, Ministry of Finance. Bapak Yonathan joins the DG of Budget Financing and Risk Management in 2021. Previously, he was the Head of Subdirectorate of Budgeting System Transformation, DG of Budget, Ministry of Finance. He earned master degree on public policy and taxation from Yokohama University, Japan, and Bachelor of Degree on Economics from Gadjah Mada University. Today, he is going to share all kinds and types of government support toward development of green and sustainable infrastructure in Indonesia. Through this presentation, we do hope that we are able to acknowledge the government of Indonesia commitment in sustainable development. Pak Yonathan, you have the following 15 minutes. Please, Pak Yonathan.
Thank you, Pak Bobby. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, let me thank you all for joining this event today. Let me introduce myself. My name is Yonathan. I replace our Director of Government Support and Infrastructure Management, Minister of Finance of Republik Indonesia, Mr. Bramantio, who could not give presentation this moment. Who anybody can assist me to share the screen? The topic of my presentation today is government support for developing sustainable infrastructure. Next slide, please. Before I, sorry, maybe before that. Yeah, okay. Before I present my topic, let me inform you to our PPP website, www.kpbu.kemenkeu.go.id. This website is written in Bahasa Indonesia and in English, so please check out. Next slide. I will divide my presentation into 4 main topics. First, I will begin my explanation the policy direction and government instrument for infrastructure financing. Second, I will talk about innovative financing instrument. After that, I will continue with PPP scheme for sustainable development. And finally, I will close my presentation by giving you SDG Indonesia 1 as main driver for blended finance platform. Next, please. Let me start with policy direction for infrastructure financing. As you can see on the screen, infrastructure investment needs in Indonesia for year 2020 to year 2024 is around 441 billion US dollar. The government budget alone will not be able to meet the total financing needs for infrastructure. To realize sustainable infrastructure, an innovative financing is a must. Therefore, to support the main objectives and missions, Ministry of Finance stipulated for policy direction for infrastructure financing as follows. 1. Attracting private sector investment. 2nd, innovative financing instrument. 3rd, fiscal policy and incentive. And 4th is improving access to global finance. Next. As you can see on the screen, there are 3 instruments regarding with innovative financing to support sustainable infrastructure. First, blended finance. The blended finance scheme is implemented to finance optimum financing scheme that combines several fundings or financing sources in one project, from government budget, both central and local budget, from private sector, donors, development agencies, and philanthropies. Second, public-private partnership, as an arrangement between public funding and private financing for infrastructure project. And the last, SDG Indonesia 1, that is a blended finance platform managed by Sarana Multi Infrastructure or SMI to finance SDG from various sources. Philanthropies, international donors, climate finance institution, grid investor, commercial bank, multilateral development bank, etc. Next slide. Regarding PPP scheme for sustainable development, there are at least 4 fiscal instruments and government support from Ministry of Finance. First, project development facilities. Facilities to support ministry or agencies or local government acting as the person in charge of cooperation project and project preparation and transaction. In providing PDV facilities, we implement the principle of quality infrastructure investment during conducting reviews and providing assistance through PDV instruments such as environment aspect, climate change issues, and promoting green financing. Second, viability gap fund, fiscal support for part of project construction costs. Third, government guarantee. Government provide guarantees for PPP project through PT-PPI or co-guarantees with Ministry of Finance. At PD-PPI, we are directed to be able to provide government support that encourage project to be commercial feasibility. Ladies and gentlemen, besides of those facilities, Ministry of Finance also provides land acquisition funding. This facility is provided by National Strategy Project managed by the State Asset Management Agency. Another facility is availability payment, assistance for the implementation of the AP regarding to product payment to enterprise. In addition, government also provide other fiscal support. We realize that blended finance has become a real need and potentially encourage sustainable development. Therefore, the Indonesia government is willing to provide government support for PPP project. Next slide. Ladies and gentlemen, this slide shows the progress of the PP projects based on their each stages. Up to now, in total, there are 50 PPP projects. Spread of Indonesia consists of around 72% in PPP projects under central government, and the rest, around 28% PPP project under regional government. Based on the classification of sectors, there are 17 projects on road, 10 projects on water sector, and 6 projects transport, and etc. Out of 50% that I already mentioned earlier, 28 projects already signed PPP project with amount of 17.17 billion US dollar. Next slide. Ladies and gentlemen, the last instrument under innovative financing is SDG Indonesia 1, or SIO. SIO was established in October 2018, and now the government of Indonesia is working to achieve the SDGs by establishing an integrated platform called SDG Indonesia 1 that combines public and private funds through blended finance to be channeled into infrastructure projects related to the SDGs. SIO focus on the small, medium project and local government level. SIO is a platform that provides 4 pillars to donor and investors like development facilities, de-risking facilities, financing facilities, and equity fund. These facilities are tailored to raise funds for development Project Indonesia. The platform aims to support the achievement of sustainable development goals, which can be accomplished by developing projects focused on sustainability. We expect that in the future, this will become an attractive pool of funds for development partners to participate in sustainable development in Indonesia. Next slide. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention. I will back time to Pak Bobi. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Pak Yo. We have learned some new knowledge from your presentation, and I noted some notes from the presentation that Government of Indonesia is committed to support infrastructure development as it is the backbone of economic recovery, then engine for the long-term growth. And also the government also exploring various kind of innovative financing scheme to finance infrastructure development agenda, which include blended finance scheme, PPP scheme, and SDG Indonesia 1. And PPP projects are all over Indonesia, and from the western to eastern part, which is the eastern part may need more development at the moment. And SDG Indonesia 1 is a breakthrough in blended finance platform. Once again, thank you, Pak Yo. Next, we will move to the next three speakers. So after learning on how government commits to support development of sustainable infrastructure, we are going to hear on Indonesia's experience in building numerous sustainable infrastructure. We will have speakers from PT Sarana Multi Infrastructure, PT Geodipa Energy, both are government special vehicle mission, and also from PT Masdar Clean Energy Indonesia, which has notable experience in building solar power plant in Indonesia. For the third speaker, we have Bapak Pradana Murti, Head of Sustainable Financing Division, PT Sarana Multi Infrastructure. PT Sarana Multi Infrastructure is one of special mission vehicle owned by the government of Indonesia, which is engaged in financing and preparing infrastructure project. PT SME, we call it PT SMI, acts as catalyst for accelerating Indonesia's infrastructure development through innovative, unique, and flexible financing product. Bapak Pradana Murthy, as the head of Sustainable Financing Division, responsible in leading company's business in financing sustainable infrastructure project that include renewable energy, energy conservation, sustainable transportation, waste management, and water supply management. He earned his Master of Science in Transport Planning from the University of Leeds, UK in 2003. Prior joining PTSMI, he was consultant at Steer Davis Cliff, UK, with a brief secondment period as interim commercial analyst manager at Great North Eastern Railway, National Express East Coast, UK. So this afternoon, Bapak Pradana will share to us on future projection of sustainable infrastructure in Indonesia and how PTSMA's strategic direction to support this transition. We are going to learn how PTSMI form blended financing structure to support Indonesia transition toward more sustainable economy. Pak Pradana, I'm sure that this will be a noteworthy presentation. Without further ado, I invite you to commence your presentation for 15 minutes. Please, Pak.
Thank you, Pak Bobby and the organizing committee. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It is a great pleasure to present to you, although online. Apologies for not being able to make the trip to Dubai, but we hope to be able to achieve that mission someday. I hope the committee can help me show my slides. Thank you. Next. Okay. Basically, PTSMI, as mentioned, is a special mission vehicle and SOE owned by the Ministry of Finance. And the role of PTSMI is certainly to help push for the accelerations of infrastructure development program in Indonesia through providing several different services. First and foremost, of course, we are expected to provide innovative and creative financing facilities that are needed by infrastructure projects. And then as a government arm's length, we are also mandated to provide municipal financing, which means we provide loans to municipalities to be able to accelerate their infrastructure development. And then we also help our government to promote private sector participation through PPPs. And in some circumstances, we also provide equity investment directly to projects. We also issued market instruments in the effort to deepening green finance market in Indonesia. We are the first corporation in Indonesia to issue green bond. And as mentioned previously, we collaborated with Ministry of Finance in launching the SDG Indonesia One platform, which is a blended finance collaborative platform. And in the past couple of years, we are also mandated by our government to help provide relief financing to improve liquidity in municipalities as well as in SOEs who are impacted by the COVID pandemic through the National Economic Recovery Program. And last but not least, we continuously improve our products through research, knowledge, and collaborations. Next. Since the inception in 2009, SMI has developed our products. First, of course, the investment and finance products. We are a non-bank financial institution, so we are more flexible in terms of developing new products. We don't actually stay just as senior lenders Sometimes we provide junior loans and even down through the equity investments. But we noticed that sometimes the problems is not in the financing itself, but the readiness of the projects. Therefore, we provide project development and advisory services in the effort to increase the quality of project documentations that prepared by project owners, both from the public sectors or from the private sectors. This is by means in providing business advisory as well as a project preparation advisory. We are a healthy company, even through the COVID pandemic. Alhamdulillah, we are by September 2021, we are a 8.3 billion USD company, and we have achieved the qualifications of BBB globally, in par with our government. In terms of the sectors, we are mandated to operate in the economic infrastructure sectors like transportations, energy, water, and etc. But also we are mandated to operate in the social sectors like in health and in education. Next. Now, our concerns about climate change has been driven by our strategic directions to make SMI climate finance initiatives in line or consistent with low emissions climate resilience pathways. And we take steps to end finance for carbon intensive fossil fuel based energy. From 2019, we have stopped providing more financing to coal-fired power plants, for example. And then we actively help mobilize private finance in climate change through promotion of PPPs. We are involved in several government assignments in helping project owners, in this case municipalities, to prepare, like for example, their waste management projects. And then we also take the role to scale up funding that is available for climate related projects through the SDG Indonesia 1 platform. So we are having this leveraging role through collaborative discussions with SDG Indonesia 1 partners. But last but not least, we actively trying to improve our capacity internally, in trying to define risk, measure risk, and also to report the impact of our investment in terms of the reductions of greenhouse gas emissions and other impacts. That's where we took measures. For example, we established the Sustainable Finance Divisions, where I am now, that's focusing on financing sustainable projects. And we are also the first accredited entity of GCF, Green Climate Fund, the first in Southeast Asia. And then we also the first issuers of green bond in terms of corporations. And last but not least, we established this environmental and safety management, environmental and social and safety management framework, which is on par with the international standards. Next. Now, if you look into PLN, our state-owned electricity company 10-year plan, we noticed that this is a marked change in terms of strategy and objective going forward of PLN in trying to adapt to various international commitments that Indonesia have. As you can see in the slide, in the next 10 years, we will see an additional of 21 gigawatt worth of additional renewable energy capacity by 2030. That will amount to 15% of renewable energy generation shares. That is a marked increase in the mixture of power productions. As you can see, hydro will still be going to be pursued by our government, and the potential is still very huge. But outside of hydros, we will see solar PV and geothermal be pushed to maximize their potential. Yeah. Next. Now, in SME supporting the energy transitions, we have been able to provide all of our products to be channeled through, let's say, for example, climate-related projects. Yeah, from loans to general loans through equity investments, as well as providing technical assistance, capacity building, and even channeling grant, like we will share in the next slides. Next. Now, this is the renewable energy portfolio that we have at the moment. That's mostly still dominated by hydro, and that's is reflecting the maturity of the subsectors in renewable energy. Hydro still the most mature at the moment. But after that, we also have been able to finance, like biomass, wind energy, geothermal, and solar PV. Yeah. And we are trying to keep expanding our portfolio and diversify our subsectors, as well as to invest in more islands in Indonesia. As you know, Indonesia comprises of islands. Yeah. Next. Now, this is the kind of example of renewable energy projects that we have financed so far. Now, from the previous slides, there are some large portfolio, like large hydros or large windmill, that we have financed. But this is just to show that there are a lot of small and medium scale projects in renewable energy, and that's quite typical in Indonesia. Yeah. Like, for example, here we have a biomass projects in the capacity of 3.5 megawatts in Merauke, the very eastern side of Indonesia. And we also have mini hydro up in the mountains in West Sumatra, capacity of 8 megawatts. And later, probably PT Geodipa will share to you their experience in the geothermal in Dieng in Central Java, around 10 megawatts. Now, these are small to medium-sized projects that are plenty in Indonesia, across the islands in Indonesia. And this is the challenge that we are facing in Indonesia: how to connect these resources that are scattered all over the place in Indonesia, and how to connect with the demands in large islands in Indonesia, and also how to actually power the small islands in Indonesia. Next. This is to show the kind of blended finance structure that we applied in our projects. Yeah, let's say, for example, in the development stage, we provide, like, for example, the technical assistance on an airport solar rooftop study that if the business model can be approved and taken up by our stakeholders, especially the airport operators. Now the replication of this is quite huge because Indonesia have many airports across Indonesia. And then we also have technical assistance in geothermal and other clean energy initiatives. In the de-risking elements, this is quite important because we see plenty of projects are not yet bankable in Indonesia. So therefore, we have this initiative enhanced with other SDG Indonesia One partners. Like for example, in geothermal, we noted that geothermal explorations is high risk, and we want to do something about it. So we collaborated in trying to provide the risking facilities in unlocking geothermal explorations problems or issues. And then we also have been talking with several partners to provide the kind of investment premium, which is the aim is to de-risk capital expenditure, to reduce the amount of capital expenditures and to achieve project feasibility. Sometimes we still have this kind of conundrum whereby tariff sometimes in some areas cannot be high. Therefore, developers will be struggling to achieve feasibility of their projects. And then the green financing facility that we are collaborating with our partners, also trying to provide concessional loans to renewable energy projects. Next. Now that are the kind of activities that we are having in the SDG Indonesia One, so where we collided and collaborate with partners in providing products. We call it development facilities, like in the technical assistance, direct facilities, even just simple financing facilities like concessional loans and even equity fund, because we have equity partners also standby in SDG Indonesia Once. But what was the trigger of that? I think the reason for SDG Indonesia One existence was the limited resource of state budget, and the capacity of developers to develop their projects. Therefore, we provide this kind of a blended finance approach in collaborations with various partners, from multilateral agency, bilateral agency, commercial entities, even philanthropy. The commitment at the moment is 3.2 billion USD from 33 different partners. Next. Is it?
2
my
minutes
time
left.
is
2 minutes, Pak Pradana. 2 minutes.
Pardon, Pak Bobby?
Please unmute. 2 minutes left, Pak Pradana.
Yes, we can hear.
Thank you.
Okay.
2 minutes.
Thank you, Pak. Now, this is the from that 3.2 billion USD of commitment from SDG Indonesia One partners. We have so far strike a deal in terms of loan facility and grant facility amounting to 800 million USD, and out of that 200 plus million USD has been dispersed so far since the inception of SDG Indonesia Once back in 2018. Now, this slide is going to show you that we are very much focused on geothermal development, and later on, Ricky will explain you our activities in geothermal. we have two major programs. On the left-hand side, we call it the government drilling. Yeah, we collaborated SMI, Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, Ministry of Finance, and GeoDipa collaborated with the World Bank, the GEF, and CTF. Yeah. To provide this funding in helping government to do some exploration drillings, and then after that the result will be tendered to obtain geothermal investment company. Yeah. And on the right-hand side, we collaborated again with other parties like the World Bank, the GCF. Again, there's also in both programs that New Zealand aid and the grant facility, there's US aid. Yeah. To provide this de-risking mechanism in the geothermal explorations to be provided to geothermal developers. Yeah, there's SOE developers and also private developers. I think the essence is to provide a half facility is a pure loan facility that is going to be paid after the completion of the exploration activity. But half the facility is the de-risking facility that can be forgiven in the case of exploration activities is unsuccessful or partially unsuccessful. So that's the kind of focus that we have at the moment. And this is, I think, my last slide. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and we will discuss later on. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Pak Pradana, for insightful presentation. And I noted several points from your presentation, Pak Pradana. So one of the PTSME strategic direction is to engage private fund to finance climate-related project. So I believe this is very substantial, as state budget alone may not sufficient in covering all financing requirement. And also renewable power plant has promising future. And also Pak Pradana showed the implementation model of blended finance structure in SDG Indonesia 1 for energy transition. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the next presenter is Bapak Ricky Firmanda Ibrahim, President Director of PT GeoDipa Energy. PT GeoDipa Energy is a state-owned enterprise focusing on geothermal energy development in Indonesia. Bapak Ricky Ibrahim served as President Director for 5 years since 2016. Prior joining PT GeoDipa Energy, he was a Finance Director of PT Tuban Petrochemical Industries. Bapak Ricky earned his postmaster degree on reservoir engineering from Stanford University, California, US, and master degree on geothermal and petroleum engineering from Montana Tech. For this session, Bapak Ricky will present Indonesia achievement in developing sustainable infrastructure in Indonesia through geothermal energy. Pak Ricky, the next 15 minutes is yours. Please, Pak.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Moderator Pak Bobi Wahyu. Excellency is Pak Fabio Kacaribu, also our guest speaker, Pak Yonatan, Ibu Dian, Pak Nana, as well as Ibu Fatima. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening in the Jakarta time, and also good afternoon in our brother and sisters at the Dubai. Let me talk about the geothermal energy development and opportunities in Indonesia. Again, my name is Ricky Ibrahim. Next, let me through is a 3-point presentation today. One is the Indonesian national target and plans. That's include about the Indonesian vision 2045, as well as net zero emissions and the role of the geothermal achieving a target as the government. Point 2 is overview and role of Indonesian geothermal state of enterprise is GeoDipa Energy 2.0. And the last is opportunity that also is we will share about this renewable energy. Let's start on the national target and plan, please. Yes, national target and renewable of geothermal. Brother and sister, Bapak Ibu sekalian, is you know that the Indonesian government through the National Development Planning and Agency is a state that the Indonesian vision by 2045 that's really matched with the Indonesian Geothermal Center of Excellence. That is, by that 2045, the 100 years of Indonesian independence, well, the government believe, and also Indonesian people believe, that is the potential of our energy resources, as well as the climate change issue and other energy roadmap that believe that is we can share and we can also be the one of the player through the renewable energy. Next slide, please. Other is evidence, is also important. Indonesian achievement of the net zero emission that was also presented by the government Indonesian President Jokowi. It was leaders meeting at the 2045 UNCC, or we call it is COP26 at Glasgow, UK. At the time, I believe is 31 October, is through the 12th November 2021, is last month, that requires support and the various stakeholders in the renewable energy sectors in terms of the regulation, technology, as well as renewable energy resources in order to achieve the net zero emission commitments. And in Indonesia, as the one of the archipelago countries, today we develop is about the 2.1 gigawatt electricity from the renewable, which is geothermal. By 2060, Indonesian's energy councils is projected, using 18 gigawatt electricity from geothermal, and can also are able to replace our coal, our coals, power plant, as well as utilization in the rural or in the small location using the small scale power plant. Next. Ladies and gentlemen, brother and sister, this is geothermal resource world versus Indonesia. As per today, we are the second rank or our installed capacity in the world. Number one still in US, but the Indonesians as the biggest, I think is now we are number second, but we are also believe that we are the biggest potential of the geothermal resource, because geothermal cannot be exported. There is one thing is important for Indonesia. Why we utilize this energy renewable such as geothermal, because that energy cannot be supported by that is potential 23 gigawatt. This is equivalent to 23 gigawatt electricity, and the government believe is about the 18 gigawatt electricity can be utilized through from the east to the west of Indonesia. Next, please. Next slide. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, by 2060, is in our national, and the national target, which is still ongoing, and hopefully by that time, again, geothermal is very important, a role with a hydro, hydro and others, at least a geothermal utilization is expected to be 65% of our potential resources. Next. Today, geothermal contributions, which is 2.1 gigawatt. Let me also explain about this, the number is, again, is Geodipa as the state-owned enterprise, as well as PLN and PGE. Today, we contribute 2.1 gigawatt, and about 2.8 megawatt, 2.8 gigawatt or 2,800 megawatt potential still is under plan by the private. This is opportunity, yeah. And the next is 1145 megawatt, also is still in open area. Ladies and gentlemen, is 40% is resources, but today, still, is about 2.1 approximately, and then is in terms of the national target for the net zero emission, it should be important for Indonesia because geothermal cannot be exported, and then this is very fit and match with the Indonesian economic development, as well as the reduction of the climate change through the reduction of the CO2. Next. Yes. Who are we? Yes, we are PT Geodipa Energy Persero, a state-owned enterprise, as well as being as the special mission vehicle with PT Sarana Multi Infrastructure. I think Pradana already mentioned about several project, especially showcase with us that is efficient and not only efficient but match, through how to develop with very fast and effectively is done. As being as a state-owned enterprise, of course, is SOA must meet with several program target, but as the special mission vehicle, we must unique because again, one of the uniquely is company must do its important role, through the government hand is the risk. There is the geothermal exploration. Not only that, and we are able also or we must also, be the infrastructure enabler. Find is economic efficient is a model. Others is but this is again, must be attractive, to be implemented not only with the PTSMI as well as PTPII. Our say is that government is the company, not government as a guaranteed company. Next, let's through is our project pipeline. We have several project pipeline in the exploration as well as exploitation. Next. Yes, one of the showcase has been also discussed earlier with Pak Pradana this is very efficient project, and then also is important in the east of Indonesia in the near future. One of 10 megawatt geothermal project, is done by Geodipa as implementation as well, and PT Sarana Multi Infrastructure as the financing. And the project is about 2 years, less than 2 years is finished, and then the project cost also is a very efficient projects, and this project is utilized is 10 megawatt, can also provide reduction about this 10,000 time about 7, probably can reduce the emission about the 70,000 CO2 emission per year. Next. Ladies and gentlemen, I think Pak Pradana also already mentioned about how being is a small spatial mission vehicle. Maybe I skip this one, in order to take some time. During this is close to Maghrib. Let's go moving in Indonesian time. Let's next year. This is the roadmap. It's important, is today in our roadmap is by 10 years. We will develop is about 640 megawatt project. In hand today is we are operating 120 megawatt. Is they produce about 700,000 CO2 ton reduction per year can be provided, and at the moment also we are constructing or developing another 120 megawatt power plant through Asian Development Bank of financing, and then will be completed COD by 2024. But after that, we are also open. We will also do some Asian Development Bank is a commitment to the DN number 3 and DN number 4, as well as others. Next. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a proven commitment toward the sustainability. This is our report. That report is also mentioned about this how many megawatt can be efficiently produced by the company. Not only that, is our contribution to the people, the surrounding people, is not only the environmentally achievement, but also is social engagement, is successfully done by the GeoDipa. Next. The emission target. Well, I think I already explained it to you that this geothermal is very attractive, very efficient, it's very promising, to provide this huge CO2 reductions. So the company today is also a plan that will verify soonly, and then will register for the 120 megawatt plan. But in the future, we can produce in terms of the CO2, for another 30 years. The number is quite big. I don't mention one by one, but this is I can say is the benefit of the geothermal energy. Is a development power plant. Next. Potential opportunities. This is very important. So Indonesian, I think, we are welcome.
Pak Ricky, you have 2 minutes left. You have 2 minutes left. Okay, thank you, Pak.
Okay, I will do fast. Thank you, Pak Bobby. So Indonesian is also invited for the financing for the power plant to be relocated at the Indonesia. So not only that, I think Pak Pradan also mentioned project financing for geothermal project also huge. Is welcome. Not only that, is next. Next, Pak. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. Is a GeoDipa invite also drilling and EPC tender. I think it's not only that, it's a equity investment, total project or joint operation, or SPV. And other is also unsolicited process in the export area. That is the area we can offer is cooperative opportunity work together. Next. Next, is geothermal is unique. Geothermal can also is provide, is lithium. In our field, is a Dieng field. We have 86 million milligram per liter. Is the highest in Indonesia, lithium content. Next, next slide, please. This is the slide, if, we produce as the plan, it's Dieng 6, we can provide about 3,000, ton of lithium from the Dieng. Yeah, I think I don't explain about these the words also concerned on the lithium, but is in terms of the economic, in terms of the price, I think today it's about 7,500 ton to about 20,000 ton US dollar, is the price. Well, the last is thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sorry, I think my time is matched with the next is thank you very much. Next, yes. Okay, thank you very much, and I'm glad and expect a lot of questions to me. And this is my email address. Please drop email address if you have any question. Don't hesitate. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Pak Riki. That was a very remarkable presentation. I wrote down several points from your presentation. So geothermal is a promising source of renewable energy. It is a sustainable resource and release low carbon emission. More importantly, it only uses small land area, therefore it will not adversely affect forests and conservative area. And then PT Geodipa Energy and PT SMI successfully collaborate in building 10 megawatt Dieng small scale geothermal power plant. And we look forward for the PT geothermal development roadmap to support Indonesia agenda for greener source of energy. Thank you, Pak Riki.
Thank you.
The last presenter, but I believe never less eminent than the previous four, is Ibu Fatima Al-Swaidi, the President Director of PT Masdar Clean Energy Indonesia. Ibu Fatima Al-Swaidi is a team leader in the business development and investment team in the Clean Energy Division at Masdar, focusing on the Asian Pacific region, and is also the President Director of Masdar Indonesia office. In her recent role as a project manager for the Cirata floating solar project in Indonesia, Ibu Fatima led the project team to a successful financial close, which is considered Masdar's first investment in Southeast Asia and the first PPP in Indonesia to be financed by commercial banks on an unlevered basis. Ibu Fatima is currently located in Indonesia, in Jakarta, I guess, and is responsible for overseeing the construction of the Cirata floating solar power project, which is considered as one of Indonesia's national strategic project. In this session, she will present Masdar experience as the UAE's leading corporation in sustainable infrastructure company, its achievement in Cirata floating solar power project, and her projection on Indonesia's future in sustainable infrastructure. I believe this will be a very wholesome presentation. Ibu Fatima, you have 15 minutes for the screen. Please, Ibu Fatima.
Thank you very much, Pak Bobby. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. Selamat malam semuanya, and good afternoon to you all. I would like to start by thanking the Indonesian Ministry of Finance and the organizing committee for inviting me today to speak at this very important event, along with the distinguished speakers we have today. Thank you, Pak Bobby, for introducing me. I'm very glad to be here today, and I will talk about the largest floating solar plant in Indonesia. But first, allow me to start by introducing or talking a bit about Masdar. So please, can you move to slide 3, slide number 3, next. Yes. So Masdar, to many of you who might not know what we do, Masdar is considered a world-class leader and a pioneer in renewable energy. We have developed more than 14 gigawatts of renewable energy projects in the last 15 years across more than 40 countries around the world. This approximately equates to investments totaling to approximately $20 billion. These projects in total displace over 19 million metric tons of carbon dioxide per year. Our only focus is on renewable energy and sustainability, making sure that sustainability is not limited to the infrastructure itself or the project, but also implements a sustainable culture and lifestyle across. Next, please. So basically, when we talk about renewable energy, there's several different technologies that we can look into. As Masdar, we have developed, invested, and advanced wind, onshore and offshore, solar energy, looking into ground mount, floating, and rooftop, concentrated solar power as well. Carbon capture, utilization and storage, waste to energy, small to medium scale grid and off-grid projects, and also renewable energy powered water desalination. So basically looking at all these different technologies, we have implemented them at large scale, small scale, and medium scale across different countries. We also make sure that in the projects that we implement, not only do we add value to our partner in the project and the country, but also, most importantly, to the local community that is surrounding the project. Next, please. This map that you see here, this summarizes essentially where Masdar is today. We are in 40 plus countries when it comes to projects. We also have offices in different parts of the world, Indonesia being one of the most recent, actually. And this map also shows the different technologies that are existing in those countries. I would like to give the audience a bit of a glimpse on some of the projects that you see here on the map. So if we can go to the next slide, please. We can see only 4 examples of the operational utility scale projects. One of our projects is located in Uzbekistan called Nur Navoy. This project is considered to be the first successfully financed independent power producer solar project in Uzbekistan. Capacity of 100 megawatt PV, and is expected to be this project is already in operation since last couple of months, actually. The next project you see on the slide is one of the landmark projects of Masdar, which is located in the UAE, in Dubai, in the Mohammed bin Rashid Solar Park. This project is 800 megawatts power plant located all in one area. And this project is in partnership between Masdar, the Dubai Electricity, Water and Water Authority, and EDF. The third example you see here is Jordan's largest solar power plant with a capacity of 200 megawatts, which was operational since 2020. The Bainuna project is a partner between Masdar and Tallery. The last example you see on the slide is onshore wind. Basically, this project is considered to be the largest utility-scale commercial wind project in Serbia and the Western Balkan. With a capacity of 158 megawatt wind, the project has been developed by Masdar, Tallery, and DEG since 2019, has been in operation as well. To give you also another idea of different projects that we develop in Masdar, not only do we do utility scale, but also we do energy services within our different initiatives. On the next slide, you can see different examples on what we have done so far. And I'm kind of focusing more on the energy services aspect, because this is one of the things that is quite attractive for a market like Indonesia. If we take example of the Miral project, which is basically the Warner Brothers World in Abu Dhabi, once completed, This project will be Abu Dhabi's largest solar rooftop system, and also will be the largest solar-powered theme park in the GCC, with a capacity of 7 megawatts. Also on rooftop, the Abu Dhabi Airport Company also developed by Masdar a capacity of 2.98 megawatts. This will be the largest solar car park in Abu Dhabi once completed. We have provided a full turnkey solution from design, procurement, investment and construction, as well as operation and maintenance of the plant throughout the lifetime. So this is to give you a kind of a glimpse of some of the projects that we have in Masdar, but I also want to tell you more about what we're doing in Indonesia. So moving to the next slide, Indonesia has showed a lot of eagerness and commitment to expand its energy mix and to diversify it. The new green RUPTL is a strong testimony from the Indonesian government to show that. So, and actually from the Masdar side, to amplify our growth and our presence, we established the Masdar Indonesia office, which is basically a satellite from Abu Dhabi. And this office, PT Masdar Clean Energy Indonesia, is committed to Indonesia's market, to expanding renewable energy. We have already expressed our interest actually to Indonesia by wanting to establish more than 1 gigawatt of renewables for Indonesia. The team in Indonesia here is comprising of hand-picked experts in the field of renewable energy, and this is to support the Indonesian growth and local economy. Of course, Masdar's pioneer project in Indonesia, as I mentioned earlier, and Pak Bobby mentioned in the introduction, is the Cirata floating solar power plant. Cirata is the first and largest floating solar power plant in Indonesia, and the Indonesian government actually granted this project a PSN status, basically Proyek Strategis Nasional, and this signifies the importance of the project to both countries and will continue to be as important as well. To tell you more about the project on the next slide, we can see here essentially a quick background of what the project is. The capacity of the project, once complete, will be delivering 145 megawatt AC to the PLN grid. We signed a power purchase agreement for 25 years with PLN as the off-taker and the state-owned electricity company in Indonesia. The power plant, or the scope of our project, will be to fully develop, construct, finance, and operate this plant for 25 years. The construction has begun since the second quarter of this year and is expected to complete by end of next year. One of the unique aspects of this project is that it covers both land and water. Having said that, what I mean is that the floating plant, or the floating solar plant, is located on the reservoir. You see here at the bottom of the picture, the Cirata reservoir. And the second part of the plant, or the extended part of the plant, is basically the substation and the transmission lines, which extend throughout around 9 hectares of land. The project, introduces and brings a lot of advantages to the Indonesian market. First of all, it advances the renewable energy sector in Indonesia by showcasing a precedent, an example of a pioneer project in non-recourse project finance, and also by showing the support between both countries, the UAE and Indonesia. It will contribute to the national energy mix in Indonesia to reach the target of 23% by 2025. And also, it will contribute to the local economy by sourcing from the local supply chain, as well as supporting the knowledge transfer in Indonesia itself. Moving to the next slide, this also gives you kind of in a nutshell, very quickly, the different and main aspects of the project. So the project is meant to, as I mentioned, to support the local economy by creating jobs, by educating the local community about the Cirata project and the benefits and advantages of the floating solar power plant. It's going to be displacing more than 214,000 tons of CO2 emissions per year. And it's going to power around 50,000 homes only by this plant to the surrounding community in the West Java province. So actually, this project will act as an example to future projects in the renewable energy industry, because it's the first and the largest floating plant in Indonesia. We are working very closely with the government to better understand how the policies and the regulatory body can be upgraded to include such technologies as the Chirata project. So I'd like to conclude my presentation by showing you the last couple of slides. The last slide here, you see the slide before last actually is a 3D view of the Chirata plant. It's located in the West Java province between Purwakarta Regency and Bandung Barat. The Chirata reservoir is quite unique because it extends to a depth of 100 meters underwater. And it's also used for irrigation purposes, for fisheries, and so on. So the plant, I mean, this view is actually a simplified view. The reservoir is quite challenging because, as I mentioned, the depth is ranging between 0 to 100 meters. And you can see on the left side, the transmission line extends and crosses a river as well in the Chirata area. The last slide, you will see the rendered photos of how the plant will look like, inshallah, after the operations, after the completion of construction by end of next year. So the plant will have this layout, and inshallah, the expected completion is going to be by the end of next year. So that's it from me for now. Thank you. Terima kasih banyak. Back to you, Pak Bobby.
Terima kasih, Ibu Fatima. Now I realize that you are very fluent in bahasa Indonesia. Inshallah.
Sedikit, Pak.
Yeah, sedikit. Thank you, Bu Fatima. So thank you for adding some perspective on in Indonesia effort in developing a greener infrastructure. I noted some important things that you have mentioned, that Masdar displays over 19.5 million metric tons of CO2 already. And then also Masdar global footprints is over 40 countries. And of course, Masdar recognized that Indonesia has a strong commitment for the sustainable development, especially through the renewable energy. And not forget to mention that Chirata floating solar power project is also a masterpiece between UAE and Indonesia cooperation. Distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, that remarkable presentation from Ibu Fatima conclude our presentation session. So we have listened to 5 insightful presentations from prominent speakers. So without further ado, I would like to go to the question and answer session. In online Slido, we have received some questions from the online participants. However, I would like to ask participants that present in our pavilion Indonesia first. Maybe there are some questions from the on-site participants. Any question from the on-site participants? Yes, we have one here. Please, Mike, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Please mention name and the institution.
Yes.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Amna Al-Jabri. I am Director of Financial Studies in the Department of Finance, Dubai Government. First of all, thanks for sharing with us your experience on sustainable projects and in green finance. It was a great experience. I have 3 questions. Wait. First of all, in one of the presentations, was mentioning about monitoring the projects. About monitoring the projects, okay, with the ministries. But I need to know how you are monitoring it. It's mentioned that it was in the systems, so I need to know it's only financial perspective or it's KPIs that contain financial perspective and environmental impact also. This is the first question. The second question, I get confused a little bit between the concept of blended finance and the PPP, if someone can explain it more. And the third one, it's about the stimulus that you are providing for the private sector. I need to know, I noticed that there is a lot of stimulus for the taxes. Is it for 1 year or it is for 5 years? And what was the impact if you already studies the impact? And thank you.
Thank you very much. We already have 3 questions from the on-site participant from Department of Finance of Dubai. So I will recap very short the question. Firstly, about monitoring the projects. How we monitor, is it just the financial monitoring, or even further from that, how we put the KPI on the projects? That's the first one. The second one, maybe panelists or the resource person could also elaborate more the difference somehow between the blended finance and the PPP schemes. That's second one. And the third one, it's what kind of the stimulus, fiscal incentive and other stimulus that are present in Indonesia for the infrastructure development. So I think for the first question, how we monitor the project, I think Pak Yonatan may answer this question, and maybe other panelists also. Please, Pak Yonatan first, and maybe other panelists. Please, Pak Yonatan, how we monitor the project?
Thank you, Pak Bobby. Thank you for the question and concern. What I know about the monitoring is what we have to monitor the quality of the PP project. And what we are doing right now in Indonesia, we mitigate the risk about the PPP quality, the quality of PPP is that from the beginning. So when we receive the proposal of PPP project from the person in charge of the corporation project, first we review and evaluate the outline business case to make sure that 4 elements to conduct a good PPP already there. There is a revenue stream, output specification, land acquisition, and the legal or regulation. If there is something that should be added or revised, we ask them condition precedent first. And the person in charge for corporation project must fulfill the condition precedent first before continue to the next stages. So we structure the project to be the good project from the beginning. And we conducted this review from the beginning again and again until PPP signed and we get investor or lender to finance the project. So in this case, we monitor from the beginning until the end, not related to the finance only, but also we review and the detail, including the legal or regulation, whether the legal regulation already appropriate to continue the project or not. This is my first answer, Pak Bobby.
Thank you, Pak Yonatan. Hope that could satisfy all the question from the on-site participant. But however, because of the time constraint, if you do have more questions, we would like to connect you with the friends from the Ministry of Finance in Indonesia as well. That's the first question. The second one, maybe from PTSMI, would like to explore more. What are the difference between blended finance and the PPP scheme? Please, from PTSMI.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Bobby. Between blended finance and PPP, yeah. Again, both are collaborative financing. Yeah, PPP, as simple terms, is the collaborative financing to projects between public sector and private sectors. So that's the simplest terms. I think that the public sectors in this case can also provide facilities and incentives, yeah, like for example viability gap fund or guarantee, yeah, to make the project feasible and bankable for private investor to come in and invest, yeah. So that's the simplest term of PPP. And blended finance is, I think it's also a collaborative financing, but I think the terminology is more geared towards sustainable financing, whereby this collaborative financing in the blended finance terms utilize an extra dimension, which usually comes from development institutions. Let's say, for example, in providing technical assistance in preparation of the projects, as well as in providing the risking facilities in the effort to de-risk the projects and for investors to be able to achieve feasibility and bankability status. So I think that's at the end, it has the same goal between PPP and blended finance, and the same approach. It's just the parties who involves are a bit extra in the blended finance approach. Yeah, I think that's my explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, Bapak. So the extra participants that involved in the scheme, I think that's one of the differences between blended finance and PPP scheme as well. So the next question would be the fiscal stimulus or fiscal incentive. I would like to invite colleagues from Ministry of Finance, from Pak Dudi or Pak Nur, because one of the panelists, Ibu Dian, has to go to another important agenda. I would like to invite Pak Nur or Pak Dudi to address this question briefly about the fiscal incentive or fiscal stimulus for the infrastructure or sustainable development project. Please, Pak Dudi or Pak Nur.
Thank you, Pak Bobi, for this question. I will try to address the question, the issue that raised by the attendants. Yeah. Thanks for your question. It's very, I think it's quite strategic and important issue that we need to address in this regard. And there are a couple of fiscal instruments, mostly in the state revenue policy, with regard to the to support the development of the renewable energy investment, particularly, and even these days, the government of Indonesia very keen in supporting even the development of, let's say, the motor vehicle, the hybrid and the electricity motor vehicle development in Indonesia, where it is considered as more environmental friendly. And I can name a couple of instruments that the government already put into the table on the table right now. The first is the tax holiday, where the government provides 50% and 100% tax reduction for 5 to 20 years, depending on investment amount, with minimum is 100 billion rupiah for pioneer industries such as economic infrastructure industry and basic organic chemical industry. Of course, if we are talking about the development of renewable energy, then the investment should be one of which is related to the development of renewable energy investment. And then the second one is the tax allowance, where this tax may facilitate in the form of a reduction of net income, let's say 30% of total investment value for 6 years, accelerated depreciation and amortization, lower tax tariff on dividend, and about 10%, longer period of loss carry forward up to 10 years for geothermal power business, and mini and micro hydropower generation. We also provide with the VAT facility, the exemption of VAT on imported goods for geothermal activities, and we also have import tax facility. By exempting the import tax on geothermal activities as well. We also have the how to say it, the PPP, how to say it in English, yeah, the for building and land tax, we can say that, reduction of up to 100% for the geothermal exploration stage. And the last facilities with regard to the taxation in Indonesia, the government imposed the luxury good tax, yeah, for motor vehicles, on the potential emissions released by motorized vehicles, where it is considered that the higher the CO2 produced, then the higher the luxury good tax will be imposed from 0% to 95% for one-time imposition at the manufacturer level or at the time of the importation. So this luxury good tax is also used to encourage the consumption and investment of battery electric vehicles in Indonesia. I think that's my points for the issues that raised by the questioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Nur. I think also the answer is addressed the question about the fiscal incentive. So basically, we do have some tax holiday, tax incentive, VAT exemption, and other kinds of supporting incentive from the government of Indonesia. If you require more about that information, please contact me directly, or we can connect you to the related department in the Ministry of Finance of Indonesia as well. But before we conclude, we still have two questions from the online participants. So I will read through the two questions from the online participants. So one is to Mr. Jonathan from Amir, Dubai. So a recent study in UK shows drawback of the PPP-based project. The UK government has difficulties to keep quality of the project. How Indonesia mitigate this risk? I think this is quite similar from the first question, but please in brief, Pak Jonathan, this is also a challenging question. How Indonesia mitigate this risk? Maybe in short, because the UK government has difficulties to monitor this kind of PPP project scheme. That's one thing. The second one, I think this is to Mr. Pradana. What are Indonesia 2020 world ranking in the 70s SDGs? So this is from Mr. Ahmed Al-Abduli, Head of Government Finance Statistics from UAE Financial Institution. So first, I would like to invite again Pak Jonathan to briefly address this concern, because they have or he or she has a comparison with the UK study. That's one thing. The second one to Mr. Pradana, asking about Indonesia world ranking in the 17th SDGs achievement. Please, first to Pak Jonathan.
Thank you, Pak Bobby, and thank you for the question and the concern about the quality of PP project. I think we have the same challenges, and that I already answered before to the speaker before. What we right now to mitigate the risk is that from the beginning we have to make sure that for element to conduct a good PPP already there. There is revenue stream, output specification, land acquisition, and the regulation. We review from the beginning and during or along the time. After, finally, we get investment or lender that who interested to finance the project. So far, we do it manually, but in the future, right now we already developing the application for doing monitoring. We call it KPBU 4.0. This PPP for 4.0 yang that right now we still in the developing. So right now we doing the monitoring manually, but next year or hopefully next year or the next 2 years, we will monitor the progress of PPP, including the quality of PPP by using application. And besides that, we also have PTPPI. There is a guarantee. So by using the guarantee facilities, we also use the guarantee to monitor the progress of the project. So if there is something happen with the project, so PPP in this case will be guaranteed the project so that the project can conduct as we expected. That is my short response, Pak Bobby. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Jonathan. The next response would be from Mr. Pradana or Bapak Pradana. What are the Indonesia 2020 World Ranking in the 17th SDGs? Please, Pak Pradana.
Yeah, I think Indonesia SDG ranking back in 2019 was 102, and 2020 is 101, so just a one-notch increase. And right now, if I look at the website of SDG Sustainable Development Report, sdgindex.org is now in 97. Yeah, so another increase. It's still in the middle of the 193 UN countries. Yeah, so we still have a lot to do, and noting that the COVID pandemic, fiscal constraints, and lots of other challenges like the archipelagic nature of the country with many islands. Yeah. With all those challenges, we need a lot of support from the international communities, yeah, from equity funds, commercial entities, but mostly the development partners, yeah, from multilateral agencies, bilateral agencies, even philanthropy. Yeah. We talked with so many parties recently, and trying to build up the SDG Indonesia One platform to try to expand it and try to improve it, and try to improve the practice on how we do sustainable finance, yeah, in Indonesia. Yeah. So I think that's a lot of homework to do, and a lot of assistance are required from the international communities. Thank you, Pak Bobi.
Thank you, Pak Pradana. So we still, yes, please. If panelists would like to add something.
Can I add some about the monitoring or incentive? Probably from our side, you know, is we are developer, especially in the geothermal project. Up to date, not up to date, but we are now is working on the 120 megawatt project at the Dieng and Patuha. From our view, effectively government play role, especially is Minister of Finance. This is, well, I tell the truth now. Yeah? Only about less than 1 year, the company is signed, the financing flows with the ADB, as well as now we are working on the risking of the exploration with the World Bank. So as far as, my encourage to others, especially private sectors, don't hesitate. Don't hesitate, and then this is a plenty of opportunity. Our people, Indonesian people, are friendly. Frankly, we are also Muslim. We have working by heart. Please, don't hesitate, and let's make it true. You can contact not only with our atas at Dubai, but also you can direct, contact with Jonathan, Pak Bramantio, as well as Ibu Dian, and others. Yeah, that is my addition, Pak.
Okay, thank you, Pak Pradana and Pak Riki. That is a very strong statement to close this session. And to Ibu Fatima, I think we would like to see the Cirata project would be in operation soon, very soon. So that would be a great showcase to Indonesia and UAE cooperation, Bu Fatima. Okay, because of the time constraint, inshallah. Thank you, terima kasih, Bu Fatima. Due to the time constraint, I think we have to conclude this discussion session and the overall business forum today. And because the time in Indonesia already almost Isha time, I think we have to really soon conclude this business forum. So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of Indonesia Business Forum today. We have reached our end of the talk show, and I hope that almost 2 hours discussion may enrich our understanding in Indonesia commitment for greener and more sustainable growth. Thank you for actively participate in this talk show, and please give applause to all panelists and all participants. I am Bobby Wahyu Hernawan. Thank you very much and have a great day everyone. I will return this session to Master of Ceremony. Please welcome.
Thank you, Pak Bobby, as the moderator who has led the discussion of Business Forum today. And thank you to all honorable speakers and all distinguished guests here. On behalf of the Indonesia Ministry of Finance, we would like to thank you for the participating in this Business Forum today. And we also have still numerous interesting events here in Indonesia Pavilion for the Indonesia Business Forum until March 2022. For details, please check Indonesia Pavilion website expo2020indonesia.id. I am Ira Menecini. Thank you very much and have a great day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Green Climate Fund itu adalah suatu mekanisme pendanaan di tingkat internasional yang didesain untuk menyalurkan sumber daya internasional, resources internasional kepada negara-negara yang mau melakukan pembangunan dan melakukan pembangunannya itu dengan prinsip-prinsip pembangunan hijau tadi.